What if the things we once considered broken were not the end of beauty, but the beginning of it? Imagine a quiet backyard where old wood, chipped pottery, and forgotten lanterns are reborn, not as clutter, but as treasures. This is the heart of what we share here at TERAFLORA Studio. Stories of transformation, where simple hands and gentle patience can turn yesterday's scraps into tomorrow's sanctuary. Every object has a memory. A chair that once held conversations at a family table can now cradle flowers in bloom. A bottle emptied at celebration may glow again as a lantern on a summer night. These projects are more than decoration. They are poetry written in soil, sunlight, and second chances. And they remind us that design does not always mean buying new. It often means looking again more tenderly at what we already have. Before we go further, I want to share something important. This content has been thoughtfully curated and supported with the help of AI tools. It allows us to bring ideas together with clarity and imagination. But every vision here is meant to inspire your own creativity, your own hands, and your own garden. So let this be an invitation. Sit back, breathe deeply, and let the rhythm of these stories guide you. Perhaps you will find a project that sparks joy, or a design that feels within your reach. And maybe, in the process, you will rediscover the beauty in what you once thought was useless. If these moments of inspiration speak to your heart, we warmly invite you to subscribe to TERAFLORA Studio. By joining us, you are not just supporting a channel. You are nurturing a growing circle of dreamers who believe that even the smallest space can bloom with magic. They say a fence is meant to divide, to draw a line between what is yours and what is not. But in a garden, fences often do something far more poetic. They hold beauty in place, like a frame cradling a painting. Imagine the morning light brushing across a row of reclaimed wood, each piece uneven, some shaped with gentle curves, others squared and sturdy. They once belonged to drawers, cabinets, and old furniture that might have been forgotten. Now, under your care, they stand reborn as a mini fence, whimsical and tender, surrounding beds of vegetables and flowers that laugh in the breeze. This project doesn't ask for perfection. In fact, its charm comes from the quirks, the chipped edges, the faded paint, the little knobs left like jewelry on weathered doors. By embracing these imperfections, you create something far richer than a store-bought panel. You create a story that your garden will remember. To begin, gather scraps of wood from old furniture or leftover planks from another project. Use a jigsaw or hand saw to cut playful shapes, no need for uniformity. Paint them in soft pastels, earthy stains, or leave some raw to showcase their history. A few stenciled bees, clovers, or leafy silhouettes add a touch of whimsy that turns the fence into more than just structure. It becomes an artwork. When you line these pieces into the soil, guiding them into a curve or gentle straight path, you'll notice how quickly they transform a simple garden bed into something magical. Tomatoes seem to blush brighter when framed by faded mint slats. Cosmos and daisies giggle behind blush-painted panels. Even a simple patch of lettuce suddenly feels like part of a fairy tale. The practical side is just as rewarding. A mini fence keeps small pets or wandering feet away from tender sprouts. It defines space in a way that makes a backyard, no matter how small, feel intentional and loved. And it does all this without costing much more than a brush of imagination and the patience to see beauty where others see waste. As the seasons change, the wood will weather, softening in tone, its cracks deepening like laugh lines on a wise face. And each morning, when you see sunlight spill across the fence you built with your own hands, you'll remember this. Sometimes the most enchanting boundaries are the ones that invite wonder rather than keep it out. Sometimes the most overlooked furniture hides the greatest potential. That old cabinet gathering dust in a corner of the garage once held plates, mugs, and forgotten clutter. But in the quiet hands of creativity, it can become something remarkable. A living vertical garden that transforms not just your space, but your relationship with the soil. Picture this, an upright cabinet, its paint weathered and softened by time. Each drawer now cradles soil instead of silverware. Tender rows of lettuce stretch eagerly toward the sun, their greens glowing with a freshness money can't buy. Cherry tomatoes tumble like rubies across the edges, their vines tracing graceful arcs down the wood. Spinach and kale nestle into shelves where measuring cups once stood, thriving as if they had always belonged there. What makes this idea so inspiring is its balance of practicality and poetry. In small spaces, vertical gardening is liberation. You don't need sprawling fields or expensive raised beds. All you need is imagination and a cabinet that others may have tossed away. Every shelf becomes a plot, every drawer a tiny harvest field. And in the gaps between structure and soil, resilience grows. Creating your own vertical cabinet garden is simpler than it looks. Start by reinforcing the structure so it can safely hold soil. Line drawers with landscape fabric or coconut coir to help with drainage. Add a rich potting mix, tucking in your seeds or seedlings with gentle hands. Herbs like basil, thyme, and oregano flourish in the shallow spaces, while cherry tomatoes and beans spill outward in playful abundance. Marigolds planted at the base not only brighten the frame but serve as natural guardians, deterring pests while welcoming bees. There is something tender about watching life spill from something once considered useless. Each sprout becomes a quiet triumph, each bloom a reminder that sustainability isn't just about saving the earth. It's about seeing worth where others see waste. When the evening light glows golden across your vertical garden, the cabinet no longer looks like furniture. It looks like a story in bloom, a tale of second chances, of nourishment born from neglect. And when you step into your small backyard, you'll notice it. The fragrance of herbs, the burst of color, the hum of bees. Your cabinet has become a pantry of life, standing tall, proud, and alive. There's a quiet kind of beauty in things that are no longer perfect. A chipped plate, a cracked bowl, a dish whose glaze has faded. These fragments often feel destined for the bin. Yet, in a garden, they can find a second life, one that whispers of resilience and charm. Rustic dish garden edging is more than a boundary. It's a story told in porcelain and soil. Imagine a row of mismatched plates rising gently from the earth, standing like delicate sentinels around a bed of tulips and basil. Each dish carries a history. Perhaps once it held family dinners or candlelit suppers. Now, under the open sky, it guards blossoms and herbs with quiet dignity. The sunlight dances across glazed blues, reds, creams, and corals, turning imperfections into points of wonder. No plastic border could ever tell a tale so human, so soulful. Creating this edging at home is as simple as it is transformative. Start by digging a shallow trench along your flower bed. Slide the plates halfway into the soil, letting some lean slightly for stability. Don't aim for symmetry. Let the corks guide the design. A cracked plate might sit beside one still hole, a glossy finish beside a matte. This mix is what gives the border its character, a charm that feels unpolished yet deeply intentional. As days pass, the garden grows into the edging. Marigolds nod between the porcelain, lavender brushes softly against faded china, and creeping time spills across the edges like laughter spilling from a memory. Over time, the soil will stain the plates, the sun will soften their colors, and together they will weave into the garden's rhythm, as if they had always belonged. Beyond its beauty, this DIY has a practical heart. Broken dishes are durable, weather-resistant, and surprisingly strong when anchored in soil. They create a sturdy edge that keeps mulch and plants in place. And unlike factory-made borders, they carry soul, reminders of meals shared, of past kitchens now immortalized in blooms. When you step into your backyard and see this border catching the light, you'll feel something deeper than design. You'll feel the warmth of stories preserved in fragments. Because sometimes, the most meaningful creations aren't about buying new, but about reimagining the broken. In those chipped edges and faded glazes lies a truth. Beauty doesn't leave us when something shatters. It simply waits for hands willing to rebuild it. There is a kind of poetry in walking across fragments. Pieces once part of a vase, a dish, or a jug, now scattered and seemingly useless, can be reborn into something both practical and enchanting. Mosaic stepping stones. Each step becomes a celebration of what was broken, stitched back together not with glue but with vision and soil. Imagine a garden path leading through your backyard, not paved with uniform concrete, but dotted with stones alive with color. One stone shimmers with blue shards from a once elegant vase. Another glows with coral and cream fragments that catch the sunlight like jewels. Together, they create a patchwork of stories, guiding feet across herbs and flowers, whispering of transformation beneath every step. The making of these stones is an act of care. Start with simple cement molds, plastic trays, old pans, or even cardboard circles lined with plastic will do. Before pouring the cement, arrange your pottery fragments face down in the mold, like a secret waiting to be revealed. Once the cement sets, turn the stone over and there it is, a mosaic born from memory and accident. Each stone is unique, reflecting not only the colors of the pottery, but the rhythm of your hands as you place each shard. You might choose to create patterns, a sunburst of yellow, a spiral of green, or simply scatter pieces freely, letting chance design the art. Either way, the result is a surface that gleams in daylight, glowing brighter when rain has washed it fresh. Beyond beauty, these stepping stones carry practicality. They form a walkway that keeps shoes dry, protects tender grass, and defines paths through a small yard. Yet they are more than function. They are touchstones of resilience. Every time you cross them, you're reminded that what once seemed ruined has found a place of honor in your daily life. And perhaps the most magical part is how they invite interaction. Children will trace the mosaics with their toes. Guests will pause to admire the shimmer of colors beneath their feet. And you, every time you step across, will feel a sense of grounding, a soft reminder that imperfection can be beautiful if given purpose. So, the next time a vase falls and shatters, resist the urge to sweep it away in frustration. Hold onto the pieces, for in your garden, those fragments might become stepping stones to something new, a path of resilience, color, and quiet wonder beneath the open sky. A gazebo can be more than just a structure. It can become the heart of a backyard, a sanctuary where stillness gathers and evenings feel endless. And it doesn't require luxury materials or a hefty budget. With forgotten curtains, second-hand lights, and a bit of imagination, you can turn a simple frame into a glowing retreat that feels both timeless and deeply personal. Picture soft fabric, white, blush, or faded linen, draped across the beams of your gazebo. These curtains were once tucked away in thrift shop corners or closets, overlooked for their wear. Now, tied back with gentle knots, they dance in the evening breeze, catching sunlight as though they were spun from gold. The effect is not grandiose but graceful, as if your garden itself decided to breathe more deeply. As dusk settles, the real magic awakens. Old lanterns rewired with care or strings of mismatched bulbs gathered from garage sales flicker into life. Their glow is warm, never harsh, painting the wooden beams with a soft amber hue. The air fills with the fragrance of jasmine climbing nearby, or roses leaning into the light, making the space feel less like a backyard and more like a secret room under the sky. Building this at home requires little more than patience and presence. Begin with what you have. A pair of curtains, even if slightly torn, can be stitched or layered for charm. Hang them so they flow, not stiffly but freely, framing the open sides of your gazebo. For lighting, repurpose old bulbs or lanterns, giving them a coat of weatherproof paint if needed. String them above like fireflies waiting to glow. Once complete, the gazebo transforms into a place that welcomes moments. A morning tea surrounded by birdsong, an evening conversation bathed in warm light, or a quiet pause at twilight where the only sound is the rustle of fabric against the wind. It's not about building something new, but about revealing what already exists, the potential hidden in discarded pieces. And perhaps that's the true gift of this project. In a world that moves fast and favors the flawless, You've chosen to slow down and give value to the overlooked. Your gazebo becomes more than decor. It becomes a reminder that beauty can be humble, recycled, and full of soul. And when you sit beneath it, light spilling gently around you, you'll feel it. A small corner of peace stitched together by your own hands. Sometimes beauty arrives with wings. The quiet flutter of sparrows, the quick dart of finches, the gentle coo of doves. All these small visitors remind us that a garden is more than plants. It's a shared space with the living world. And with a little imagination, even something as ordinary as an old picture frame can become a welcome table for feathered guests. Imagine this. A weathered wooden frame once holding family portraits, now suspended from a tree branch, its empty center filled with a small tray of seeds. The frame becomes a window into another life, not of people, but of birds gathering joyfully in your backyard. Sunlight filters through the frame, catching the shimmer of feathers as sparrows perch on the edges, tilting their heads curiously before diving into the feast. The transformation is simple, yet deeply satisfying. All you need is a sturdy frame, a shallow wooden or metal tray, and a way to attach the two securely. A few hooks or brackets can fix the tray at the base, while strong twine or chain allows the feeder to hang freely. Add birdseed, and wait. Soon, your garden will be alive with song. You might paint the frame in cheerful pastels, mint, sky blue, or sunflower yellow, so it brightens the space even when no birds are present. Or perhaps you leave the wood bare, allowing age and weather to deepen its patina, blending it seamlessly into the garden's rhythm. Either way, the feeder is more than functional. It's a piece of art that invites life. And the magic isn't only for the birds. As you sip morning tea or tend to herbs nearby, you'll notice the change it brings to you too. The fluttering wings create a soundtrack of freedom. The sight of tiny beaks gathering seeds adds a tenderness to your day. Children will pause, delighted, pointing at the flashes of red, brown, and gold that land within the frame. This project reminds us that gardens are not just for us. They are habitats, sanctuaries, shared worlds. By offering a place of nourishment, you create a bond, however small, with creatures that carry songs from tree to sky. And in the quiet moments when you see them framed perfectly, tiny lives captured against sunlight, you'll realize this. The old frame didn't lose its purpose. It found a new one that holds not photographs, but living, fleeting portraits of joy. As the sun dips low and twilight begins to soften the edges of the day, light becomes more than illumination. It becomes atmosphere. There's a particular kind of magic when you step outside and your patio greets you with a gentle glow, not from store-bought fixtures, but from lanterns you've crafted with your own hands. Glass bottles, once destined for the recycling bin, now hang as beacons of warmth and presence. Picture a pergola at dusk, its beams entwined with vines. From above, green and amber bottles sway gently, each fitted with a small flicker of light inside. The glow is subtle, like fireflies caught in glass, painting the space with amber hues that feel both rustic and intimate. The air smells faintly of herbs from pots nearby, the warmth of evening settling in, and the garden takes on a softness that feels timeless. These lanterns are more than decoration. They are art born from resourcefulness. The process is surprisingly simple. Choose bottles of varying shapes and colors, wine, vinegar, sparkling water. With patience and a drill bit made for glass, create small openings for hanging hardware. Sand the edges smooth, then add battery-powered candles or LED lights inside. Hang them at different heights to create rhythm and depth, like a constellation anchored to your pergola. For those who love color, mosaic lanterns offer another dimension. Shards of broken bottles set in cement molds become glowing discs of light. Place them along the patio floor, and when lit, they scatter fractured rainbows across stone and soil. The patterns shift as you walk by, transforming every step into a quiet celebration. This project is not only beautiful but deeply grounding. It teaches you that the simplest objects, a bottle, a shard, can be reimagined into something profound. And in creating them, you slow down. You sand glass with intention. You string bottles one by one. You light them as the evening falls, knowing the glow is your own handiwork. Soon, your patio becomes a sanctuary. Guests will pause beneath the soft lanterns, their conversations taking on a gentler rhythm. Children will trace the mosaic patterns on the ground with wonder. And you, seated in the quiet hum of night, will feel the truth of it. That beauty is not bought, but made. So next time a bottle empties, don't toss it. Hold it up to the light. Imagine its glow at dusk. In your garden, it may just become the most beautiful lantern you've ever owned. Some chairs were never meant to be discarded. Though their seats may be broken, their paint chipped, and their legs a little uneven, they still hold dignity. And in the garden, they can be reborn not as furniture, but as vessels of life. Planters that tell stories as vibrant as the flowers they cradle. Picture a weathered wooden chair leaning gently into the sunlight. Where once a seat held quiet dinners and conversations, now rests a basket filled with petunias spilling in every direction. Their blooms cascade like laughter, filling the air with joy. Ivy trails lazily down the backrest, as though the chair itself is being slowly claimed by nature. In another corner, a metal chair with chipped teal paint supports a woven basket of herbs. Mint, oregano, and thyme grow in wild harmony, their fragrance lifting into the morning air. This chair doesn't shout its purpose. It simply grows, becoming a humble altar to life. And then, 3 mismatched chairs stand side by side. One hosting zinnias, another bursting with pansies, the last alive with snapdragons. They form a gallery of blooms, their differences united by a shared rebirth. Making your own chair planter is a tender and simple process. Begin with a chair that has lost its function. A crooked leg or a broken seat makes it even more charming. Remove the seat or cut an opening, then place a basket or pot inside, lined with soil. Fill it with flowers, herbs, or even trailing vines. Over time, the blooms will spill over, transforming the chair into something that feels both whimsical and sacred. Beyond their beauty, these chair planters bring practicality to small spaces. They raise plants off the ground, perfect for balconies or tiny yards where space is scarce. They require no digging, no elaborate setup, just imagination and patience. And each time you walk by, you're reminded of the quiet magic that happens when we give the forgotten a second chance. The weather will continue to mark the chair, deepening its character. Rain will soften its paint, sun will fade its edges, and through it all, flowers will keep blooming. It is not perfection you create, but poetry, written in wood, metal, and petals. So before you toss that old chair, pause. Look again. Perhaps it isn't finished. Perhaps it is waiting to bloom. Stillness doesn't require wide landscapes. It can be found in the smallest corner, stitched together with patience, imagination, and the grace of reuse. A Japanese-inspired farmhouse Zen garden captures this truth, weaving serenity from broken, forgotten pieces that together form a sanctuary of balance. Picture stepping stones crafted from shattered pottery tiles, pieced into mosaics that carry you slowly across polished gravel. Each step feels intentional, guiding you not toward a destination but into presence itself. Around the stones, ferns bow gently, and moss softens the edges, lending an aged wisdom to the space. Nearby, a salvaged wooden trough once used for farm chores now cradles still water, reflecting clouds and branches like a mirror of the sky. A bamboo spout trickles into a basin carved from stone, the sound steady and rhythmic, like nature's own heartbeat. This simple cadence invites breath to slow, thoughts to ease. Old ladders lean quietly against a fence, transformed into vertical stands for bonsai and small potted trees. Their weathered rungs, once utilitarian, now hold miniature worlds, maples, azaleas, and delicate junipers sculpted by time. Above, a cherry blossom drapes its branches, scattering pale petals like whispers across the gravel path. Nothing here feels extravagant. Everything feels essential, Creating a space like this at home is less about materials and more about intention. Begin with what you already have: broken tiles, farm tools, a chipped basin. Arrange them with care, focusing on harmony rather than symmetry. Let empty space speak as loudly as planted space. A single stone placed thoughtfully can become as meaningful as a bed of flowers. The beauty of a mini Zen garden lies not in abundance but in restraint. Its power is in the silence it holds, the way it transforms scraps into symbols of mindfulness. By slowing down to build it, you are also teaching yourself the rhythm of patience. By tending it, brushing gravel, pruning bonsai, or refilling the water basin, you practice presence moment by moment. When you step into this small corner, you'll feel it. The garden doesn't demand anything of you. It simply offers stillness. And in the hush of leaves, the soft trickle of water, the quiet glow of reclaimed wood and stone, you'll discover that peace isn't far away. It has always been here, waiting in the fragments, waiting in the soil, waiting for you to notice. Some gardens do not grow by space, they grow by illusion. A narrow backyard can feel expansive. A corner can appear like a winding path, all through the quiet magic of mirrors. Upcycled from forgotten hallways and thrift store shelves, mirrors become windows that extend your garden into dreamlike depths. Imagine stepping into a small yard and catching glimpses of green not only in front of you, but also within the frames hung along the fence. An oval mirror reflects tulips swaying in the wind. A rectangular one catches the blue of the sky, while a circular piece turns ivy into a cascade that seems endless. The mirrors, mismatched and imperfect, together form a gallery of second chances. This project works because it leans on reflection, not perfection. You don't need pristine glass or ornate frames. Chipped edges, faded paint, or a bit of rust only add to the character. A coat of weather-resistant paint in white or pastel tones helps unify the look, while wrought iron or wooden frames add rustic charm. Hang them slightly offset, as if you're curating art on your outdoor wall. The placement is key. Mirrors should catch greenery, flowers, or open sky, never harsh sunlight. The goal is not glare but glow. A bamboo fence transformed with mirrors becomes more than a boundary. It becomes a passage to imagined gardens beyond. A wooden wall lined with reflections feels less like a limit and more like a window. And every time you pass by, you'll notice how the light shifts, how the colors change, how the garden feels alive in multiple layers. Creating this illusion requires only a few tools: sturdy hooks or brackets, mirrors collected from thrift stores or storage, and a willingness to experiment. Frame them with climbing vines or cascading blooms, letting the line between real and reflected blur softly. The effect is not about grandeur, but about invitation. Suddenly, your small garden feels endless, your narrow fence like a gallery, your ordinary corner like a dream. It teaches you that space isn't always measured in feet or meters, but in imagination. And when you see yourself reflected among the flowers, you'll realize this isn't just design. It's poetry written in light, an expansion of beauty, framed not by walls, but by vision. Corners are often forgotten. They gather dust, shadows, and the weight of things left behind. Yet, with a little imagination, even these quiet spaces can bloom with warmth. Lanterns, chipped, rusted, or incomplete, become vessels of charm when repurposed, transforming an overlooked corner into the soul of a garden. Picture a pergola corner bathed in golden hour light. From the beams hang lanterns once considered useless. Glass panes missing, handles bent, paint faded. Inside, instead of candles, lush string of pearls spill like green waterfalls, trailing elegantly toward the ground. The lanterns sway gently in the breeze, whispering life back into what once seemed broken. Elsewhere, pastel-painted lanterns rest on wooden crates stacked like small stages. Inside, fairy lights shimmer, creating tiny constellations that glow against the blooms of daisies and roses nearby. The effect is enchanting, as if you've stumbled upon a hidden fairy tale, crafted not with wealth but with care. This project is simple yet deeply personal. Start by rescuing old lanterns from storage or thrift shops. Strip away rust or add fresh paint, depending on the mood you wish to create. Remove broken glass panes and replace them with plants or lights. Hang them, cluster them, or scatter them across benches and corners. The imperfections become part of the poetry. What makes lantern corner decor powerful is its duality. It brings both light and life. In the day, plants spill freely from their frames, catching the sun. At night, soft glows invite stillness and reflection. The corner you once ignored now beckons you to pause, to sit, to breathe more slowly. It's not about grandeur. It's about seeing worth where others see waste. A cracked lantern is not a failure. It's a story waiting to be retold. And in your garden, those stories gather like threads of memory, stitched into vines, flowers, and flickers of light. Guests who visit will notice it too. Their eyes will linger in the corner, surprised at the beauty found in such a simple idea. They may ask how you thought of it, and you'll smile, knowing the answer was always there, in the lanterns themselves, waiting for someone to see them again. Because sometimes, the most radiant corners aren't those filled with perfection. They are the ones that glow because love was poured into what others left behind. Some structures are not built to impress. They are built to hold memories. A pergola made from reclaimed wood carries the soul of the past in every grain, every crack, every weathered edge. When raised in a backyard, it doesn't just provide shade. It creates a sanctuary of stillness and story. Picture beams salvaged from forgotten barns or retired furniture. They rise again, imperfect yet proud, forming the gentle frame of a pergola. From above, simple string lights sway softly, like fireflies tethered to memory. Beneath, lavender stretches toward the light, hydrangeas glow blue against the rustic wood, and a garden bench waits quietly in the shade. The air feels different here, slower, kinder, as though time has been asked to rest too. What makes a reclaimed wood pergola powerful is not its polish but its honesty. Each beam carries history, a scratch from a farm tool, a groove worn by time. Instead of hiding these imperfections, you let them speak. Together, they create a structure that feels alive, one that shelters not just plants or furniture, but intention. Building your own doesn't demand perfection. Start with sturdy reclaimed wood, old ceiling beams, fence posts, or even repurposed bed frames. Sand lightly to remove splinters, but allow the natural patina to remain. Anchor the beams firmly, then add simple crossbars overhead. Drape fabric or curtains if you wish, letting them catch the breeze like sails. String lights or lanterns can hang from above, casting warmth when evening falls. Underneath, place a table for tea, a hammock for afternoon naps, or simply a pair of chairs for quiet conversations. The pergola becomes more than shelter. It becomes a stage for life's gentlest moments. Saturday mornings stretch longer here, meals taste richer, and conversations find softer rhythms. Even if it leans slightly, even if the boards don't align perfectly, smile. That is where its beauty lives, in the reminder that life doesn't need to be flawless to be meaningful. The reclaimed pergola teaches us resilience, the art of giving old things new purpose. And when the twilight comes, when lights glow softly against the beams, you'll feel it. This is not just wood, not just design. It is poetry standing tall in your garden. A reminder that beauty never leaves. It only waits to be built again. A garden doesn't always begin with soil. It can begin with something as humble as an old drawer. Once used to store clothes or clutter, its wood scarred and its knobs loose. The drawer finds a second life as the foundation for something far more fragrant. A spiral of herbs that grows upward in rhythm, a living sculpture of green abundance. Imagine stepping into your backyard and seeing a spiral rising gently from the ground, each tier a drawer filled with life. At the base, mint spreads wide, its leaves catching the morning dew. Higher up, basil and parsley lean into the sunlight, while rosemary and thyme claim the upper layers, enjoying the drier soil. Lavender crowns the top, its purple blossoms swaying softly, adding both beauty and calm. Bees hum happily from drawer to drawer, treating your spiral as their own garden buffet. What makes the herb spiral magical is its form. By stacking drawers in a spiral or tiered pattern, you create microclimates in a small space. The lower levels retain more moisture, perfect for thirsty herbs, while the higher levels dry quickly, ideal for Mediterranean plants like rosemary. This gentle gradient allows you to grow a variety of herbs in one compact structure. A clever marriage of design and ecology. To build your own, gather old drawers from a dresser or cabinet. Arrange them in a spiral, each one slightly higher than the last, stacking soil within each. Line them with landscape fabric if the wood is fragile, ensuring good drainage. As you plant, think of harmony, herbs that complement not only each other in flavor, but also in growth. Soon, you'll see a living spiral unfold, each layer telling its own story. Beyond the practicality of fresh herbs for your kitchen, the spiral becomes a focal point of wonder. Guests will pause to trace its curves, children will follow its path with curious hands, and you'll find yourself wandering toward it in quiet moments, drawn by its gentle rhythm. And perhaps most beautifully, this spiral is a metaphor. From discarded wood comes nourishment. From broken furniture comes abundance. From something once forgotten comes something unforgettable. When you harvest a handful of basil or brush your fingers through lavender, you'll feel it. This isn't just gardening, it's transformation. It's the art of spiraling life upward from what was once cast aside. A reminder that growth often begins in the most unexpected places. Not every frame needs a painting. Some frames, worn and empty, are waiting for a new story. In the garden, they find it, not by holding canvas, but by embracing blooms. Vintage frames transformed into edging create borders that are less about boundaries and more about storytelling, turning flower beds into living galleries. Picture a row of frames pressed gently into the soil, each one unique. A faded lavender frame cradles a view of daisies. A honey yellow one echoes the brightness of marigolds behind it. A raw, weathered wooden frame stands sturdy around a cluster of roses, its cracks softened by age, its imperfections harmonizing with the garden's natural rhythm. As sunlight shifts, shadows play across the frames, making the garden feel like a collection of artworks in constant motion. The beauty of this idea lies in its simplicity. Old frames, perhaps once holding portraits or children's sketches, now hold life in a different way. They create a whimsical sense of depth, turning flowers into portraits, vegetables into still life scenes. Each glance at the edging feels like peeking into another world, a series of windows into nature's endless creativity. To make your own vintage frame edging, gather frames of various sizes and finishes. Don't worry if the paint is chipped or the corners are loose. Those imperfections add character. Reinforce the backs if needed, then dig a shallow trench along your garden bed. Press the frames into the soil, leaving their empty centers to showcase the blooms behind them. Pastel paints can unify mismatched pieces, or you can leave them as they are, letting their diversity tell the story. Over time, the frames will weather naturally. Rain will soften their edges, sun will fade their colors, and the garden will adopt them as part of its language. Flowers will peek through the openings like actors on a stage, creating living art that changes with every season. This project does more than beautify a border. It redefines how we see the ordinary. It teaches us that a frame is not limited to walls. It can embrace soil, sunlight, and petals too. And in doing so, it turns the garden into a place not just of growth, but of wonder. So the next time you find an empty frame tucked away in storage, don't hide it again. Let it stand in your garden, where every bloom becomes a painting, and every day, the artwork changes. Every project begins as a fragment, a broken dish, an old drawer, a discarded lantern. These were never meant to be perfect, yet, gathered with care, they transform a garden into something greater than the sum of its parts. The mosaic stepping stone is more than just a pathway. It is a metaphor for the entire journey. Each shard, each salvaged piece, becomes a step forward, guiding you through a landscape built on imagination and second chances. Picture walking barefoot across a garden where every corner tells a story. You begin at a rustic fence made from reclaimed plates, their colors catching the morning light. Along the path, chair planters burst with petunias and herbs, laughter spilling from their blooms. You pause under a pergola of weathered beams, string lights swaying like gentle fireflies. Mirrors on the fence trick you into believing the garden stretches further, while lanterns glow softly in the evening breeze. Every detail whispers the same truth. Beauty doesn't fade when things break. It changes form. The stepping stones, glittering with fragments of pottery, lead you onward. Each one is unique, its shards arranged into patterns that catch sunlight and rain alike. They don't hide their brokenness. They celebrate it. And as you follow the path, you realize that the garden itself has become a mosaic, a patchwork of repurposed dreams stitched together by your hands. Creating such a space is not about money or perfection. It's about presence. It's about noticing that the cabinet you nearly threw away can grow tomatoes, that the frame gathering dust can cradle pansies, that the bottle in your recycling bin can glow like a lantern. It's about slowing down, seeing possibility, and daring to turn the overlooked into the unforgettable. And in the end, what you build is more than design. It's a sanctuary, a place where every detail reminds you of resilience, where even the broken belongs, where nothing is wasted. Guests will admire the creativity, children will wander in delight, but you will feel something deeper, the quiet satisfaction of creating a garden that is not just alive with plants, but alive with story. So step forward onto the mosaic. Each stone beneath your feet is proof that beauty is not lost. It is simply waiting to be reimagined. And in that reimagining, your backyard becomes more than a garden. It becomes a treasure. And so, as the light begins to soften and the day gently folds into evening, we arrive at the end of our journey together. What began with scraps and fragments has unfolded into a garden of meaning. We have walked through spaces where broken dishes became edging, where forgotten wood rose again as shelter, where glass and fabric found new life in the glow of lanterns and the sway of curtains. Each idea, no matter how simple, has carried the same truth, that beauty is not reserved for the flawless, but blossoms in the hands of those willing to see potential. At TERAFLORA Studio, this is what we cherish most. The quiet poetry of reuse, the peace that comes from crafting with intention, and the comfort of knowing that transformation often begins in the humblest of places. It is not about creating perfection. It is about creating presence, a corner of stillness, a spark of joy, a sanctuary stitched together with memory, patience, and care. As you carry these inspirations into your own spaces, may you find yourself slowing down. Notice the way sunlight touches wood, the way herbs lean toward the sky, the way even a broken object can cradle something alive. These small moments are not only design, they are invitations to live more gently, more attentively, more beautifully. And if this journey has brought you calm or sparked an idea you wish to nurture, we warmly invite you to subscribe to TERAFLORA Studio. By joining us, you are not only supporting a channel, you are becoming part of a community that believes every home, every garden, no matter how small, can hold wonder. Until our paths cross again, may your days be filled with light, your hands with creativity, and your heart with the quiet magic of renewal.